Shof'tim, Judges, chapter 20. All the people of Israel came out from Dan to Beersheba, including Gilad. The community assembled with one accord before Adonai at Mitzpah. The leaders of all the tribes of Israel presented themselves in the assembly of the people of God, 400,000 foot soldiers armed with swords. Now the people of Benjamin heard that the people of Israel had gone up to Mitzpah. The people of Israel said, "Tell us, how was this crime committed?" The Levi, the husband of the murdered woman, answered, "I came to Giva, which belongs to Benjamin, I and my concubine, to stay the night. And the men in Giva attacked me and surrounded the house I was staying in that night. They wanted to kill me, but instead they raped my concubine to death. I took my concubine's body, cut it into pieces, and sent them throughout all the territories belonging to Israel, because they had committed a shockingly obscene and degrading crime in Israel. Look, you are all people of Israel, so discuss what to do and give your advice here and now." All the people stood up in agreement and said, "None of us will go home to his tent or his house. What we will do now to Giva is this. We'll draw lots. We'll take 10 men out of each 100 throughout all the tribes of Israel, and 100 out of 1,000, and 1,000 out of 10,000, to collect food for the others. When these men come to Giva and Benjamin, they will avenge the crime that was committed." Thus all the men of Israel joined together in complete agreement, assembled to attack the city. The tribes of Israel sent men throughout all the tribe of Benjamin with this message: "What is this crime committed by some of your people? Turn over these good-for-nothings who are in Giva at once, so that we can execute them and rid Israel of such evil." But the people of Benjamin refused to obey the order of their kinsmen, the people of Israel. Instead, the people of Benjamin gathered themselves together from their cities and went to Giva to fight the people of Israel. On that day there were 26,000 men from Benjamin armed with swords, besides the inhabitants of Giva, who numbered 700 specially chosen men. All of these 700 specially picked men were left-handed, and everyone could sling a stone at a hare and not miss. The army of Israel, apart from Benjamin, numbered 400,000 men with swords. They were all experienced soldiers. The army of Israel began going up to Beatel, where they asked God, "Who should go up first to attack the army of Benjamin?" Adonai said, "Yehudah first." So the army of Israel got up in the morning and set up their camp near Giva. Then the army of Israel went out to attack Benjamin and set up their battle line in front of Giva. But the army of Benjamin came out of Giva and slaughtered the army of Israel. On that day 22,000 men fell. The people, the men of Israel, restored their morale and again positioned themselves for battle, where they had been the first day. Then the army of Israel went up and cried before Adonai until evening. They asked Adonai, "Should we attack our kinsmen, the people of Benjamin, again?" Adonai answered, "Attack them." So the army of Israel went out to attack the army of Benjamin the second day. But Benjamin went out against them from Giva the second day and slaughtered the army of Israel. 18,000 men armed with swords fell. Then the whole army of Israel, all the people, went up to Beatel and cried and sat there in the presence of Adonai. They fasted that day until evening, offered burnt offerings and peace offerings to Adonai, and asked Adonai what to do. The ark for the covenant of God was there at that time, and Pinchas, the son of Eleazar, the son of Aharon, stood before it at that time. They asked, "Should we still go out to battle again against our kinsmen, the people of Benjamin, or should we stop?" Adonai answered, "Attack, because tomorrow I will hand them over to you." Israel hid some men around Giva, and on the third day Israel attacked the army of Benjamin and took a position against Giva as they had the other times. Again the army of Benjamin went out against the people. Lured away from the city, they began attacking and killing some of the people as they had at other times. They killed about 30 men of Israel in the countryside and on the roads, one of which goes up to Beatel and the other to Giva. The army of Benjamin said, "They're defeated, just as before." But the army of Israel said, "Let's run off and draw them away from the city onto the roads." All the men of Israel left their places and took up a battle position at Baal Tamar, while the other Israel men burst out of their hiding places at Ma'arah Geva. 10,000 men chosen out of all Israel came over to attack Giva, and the combat was intense. But the army of Benjamin didn't know that they were about to be defeated, for Adonai routed Benjamin in Israel's presence. That day the army of Israel destroyed 25,100 men of Benjamin, all of whom carried swords, and the people of Benjamin realized that they had been defeated. The men of Israel, trusting the ones they had put in place to ambush Benjamin, gave ground to the men of Benjamin. Then the men who had been lying in wait rushed in on Gibeah, drew their swords, and destroyed the city. The army of Israel and the ambushers who had agreed that as a signal they would make a huge cloud of smoke rise from the city, at which time the men of Israel would turn back. When this happened, Benjamin began to attack. They killed about 30 of Israel's men and said, "Clearly we're defeating them again, as in the first battle." But when the smoke signal began rising from the city, the men of Benjamin looked behind them and saw the whole city going up to the sky in smoke. Then, as the men of Israel reversed direction, those of Benjamin were overcome with terror. When they saw that disaster had come upon them, they turned their backs on the men of Israel and made for the road to the desert. But the battle followed them, and those who came out of the city destroyed them from the rear. They surrounded the men of Benjamin, chased them, and trampled them down, across from Gibeah to the east, on the east. 18,000 men of Benjamin fell, all of them experienced soldiers. They turned and fled toward the desert to the rock of Rimmon, and 5,000 of them were killed on the roads. They followed them to Gidom and killed another 2,000. Thus the total number from Benjamin who fell that day was 25,000 experienced sword-bearing soldiers. But 600 turned and fled toward the desert to the rock of Rimmon, and lived there 4 months. The men of Israel turned back on the people of Benjamin and killed them with the sword, the entire city, the cattle, and everything they found. Moreover, they set on fire all the cities they encountered. End of Judges, chapter 20.